stand. Good morning, all. If you please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good morning. It is October 27th, Monday. This is the Broadwater County Commissioners Business Meeting. Before we get started, just a little bit of housekeeping. This is a open public meeting, and to maintain civility, we do follow Robert's Rules of Order. The purpose of this policy is to open Broadwater County public meetings to all county citizens. We realize we have a fiscal and fiduciary responsibility to conduct county business as efficiently as possible for all Broadwater County residents. Commission meetings are recorded and are on YouTube, so please state your full name prior to any public comment. Any separate conversations need to be removed from the meeting and conducted outside. Outbursts will not be tolerated. Public comment will give each citizen who wishes to speak an initial 3 minutes to do so, and all comments should be directed to the board chairman. So with that, we will start today's meeting with public comment. Any public comment? Public comment? John?
My name is John Wright. You know, I'm astounded at the fact that you so properly and willfully administer the oath of office, which tells us our constitutional rights and how free we are, and then you turn right around and implement Robert's Rules of Procedure, which is parliamentary law. Twice in our history, we fought England, Revolution and Civil War of 1812, the War of 1812, killing millions of Americans to retain our constitutional rights. You have, through your tyrannical tyrant dictatorship, have introduced a law that is a foreign law, and it's against the law to do what you're doing. I wish you would withdraw it right now and say so. Secondly, my constitutional rights have been deprived, and I will proceed to move as far as I can to fully prosecute you and anybody else that goes along with this procedure, which I've already done in the United States Court of Appeals, case 93-7021, original writ of mandamus, a bonded case. You failed to respond, you and Elaine both, and Carla, and Doug, and John Flynn, and the procedures will move on to the full ramification. I know about the investigation that you got against me, that you've motivated. I know about the attorneys that you've brought here. I'm prepared to deal with whatever. Are you prepared to deal with the consequences? I'd like to have a response.
All right, any other public comment? Public comment? All right. The Court of Appeals that you mentioned, John, of course, that also includes Judge Sherlock and some other elected officials, as well as estates of those who've passed on. Those are illegal, and the illegal liens you've placed on the private property of all those people totals now over $6 million. The investigation is being conducted actually by the Division of Criminal Investigation under the Department of Justice. And yeah, I think we're all aware of that, John. Thank you for bringing that up again. Are you prepared to deal with the consequences? Sounds a whole lot like a threat. And that is preserved now in prosperity and will be sent to DCI as well. So, with that, Montana Minute is a chance for us to kind of regroup after public comment, such as we've heard this morning. So with that, we will regroup with something positive to say about our state or our community. Franklin, you got anything positive to say?
Well, attended dedication at Neal property up on Ray Creek. Can't remember if it was Tuesday or Wednesday. It was real good. There's a lot of people at Rocky Mountain Health and fishing game, different ones were there. And it was a nice fall day up there. The next day, I looked up there and there was snow where we were at. So that worked out good. And also, Barbara Neal was there. She was in the same class with me in high school, so I hadn't seen her for a long time. So that was good too. So.
The football team won the championship last weekend for this district. Now they go on to the first playoff, and that will be here next Saturday afternoon. And my understanding, it looks like it's gonna be Forsyth, but we don't know that for sure. So go Bulldogs.
Absolutely, ditto. I too was at the Ray Creek dedication, and what that is it used to be Neal's property. Mildred Neal's 4 daughters actually sold it to the Forest Service. So it's now Forest Service property, and it gives them a full corridor for elk habitat, elk transportation, that kind of thing. We also toured that same morning the Silos property, and that's about 74 acres that the historic silos sit on, just north of town. And then after Ray Creek, they went to Jenkins Gulch, which is just over the Broadwater County border in Jefferson County. So a good day of celebrations of good things that have been done. Also that day was a forum that Elaine and I attended after Ray Creek. Timing was good. But that was with the Agency on Aging under Rocky Mountain Development Corp. And what they were looking to do is hear from senior citizens. What do you want? What do you like about the senior citizen, senior center, senior services? What are some of your concerns, that kind of thing. It was a good meeting, about an hour and a half, I think. Good comment came from
I
that.
was disappointed because there was a nice article in the Reporter that there wasn't more people there.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that was their opportunity to speak up, but for whatever reason, they didn't make it. But
I will say we've had one of the bigger crowds.
really,
Yeah, they have not been tremendously attended. I think I counted 16 people were there. That was a lot more than they had in Lewis and Clark County.
really.
Yeah, Boulder was one that was very well attended, but the others have been pretty sparse. So, yeah, I
Good
agree
luck
with you
to the
though.
16 that were there.
Absolutely, yeah, and of course you always want more, so
Yeah.
people have their full say. So with that, any other Montana Minute from anyone? All right, before we move on, I just wanted to give a couple of updates. I sent out a memo, and Elaine, I know you haven't had email for a couple of days, but, yeah. I sent out an email a couple weeks ago and didn't hear anything back, but Michelle had requested to come and meet with employees and department heads. She'd like to initially just meet, and she'll be here today, this afternoon, just to meet with anyone who wants to meet with her. After that, she'd like to come back and do a full training. This would be mandatory attendance by department heads on disciplinary actions, hiring and firing, FMLA, all the things that department heads need to know about, how to, best practices, that kind of thing. So we'll get that scheduled with her, and but today she'll just be meeting with folks. The other thing is there was a memo that I was instructed by legal counsel to send to all employees, all department heads, and that was in response to 2 letters from the sheriff has hired an attorney, and this, it looks like it stems from the illegal payments made to reserve deputies who are volunteers but yet were paid. Of course, we've stopped that process, but her attorney sent a letter that was a do not destroy letter, which is common practice. And so I was instructed to put out a memo and let the department heads know and employees know not to throw anything away, anything pertaining to the sheriff's office, don't delete any emails, that kind of thing, which we shouldn't be doing anyway. And so that went out. I did send you guys a copy. I didn't get any response. So did send that out again per legal direction. And the last one is the union. We have an arbitration pending right now, although we've postponed it. The union, there's been a discrepancy due to a collective bargaining agreement that was done in 2004. Perhaps it goes back longer than that, we don't know. But with the contract bargaining put the sheriff's deputies out of legal sync with the sheriff's salary. Any deputy is only allowed to make up to 90% of what the salary of the sheriff makes. We have currently a couple of positions that make 92 and 93% of the salary of the sheriff. That's illegal. So we are addressing that. We tried to do the public safety department and the city voted that down. So we're looking at another plan. And initially it looked like arbitration. The union called and wanted to get together to talk about some alternatives. Can we negotiate something instead of arbitration? So we had a meeting on that last week. And of course there was a phone call September 24th with the three of us, Franklin, you and me, on with Michelle Quigley, our HR consultant, and Mike Saysad, Chief Legal Counsel for our insurance trust and Mako. And in that phone call, the three of us agreed with Mike's direction that we would not give any raises until after the arbitration is decided. So we did call the employees together to share that with them. But that was a decision by the three of us together. And so the union would like to expedite this, so we all said yes. So as you know, only one commissioner is allowed to negotiate with the union for obvious reasons, and we have to protect the rights to privacy of the employee who grieved this. So we will be getting together again. We have some homework that we're trying to get some solid numbers on. As soon as we do that, we'll meet again. So hopefully we can skip the arbitration, skip district court, work this out on our own, fix the issue, and save the county some money. So that's where we're at with that. Any questions on that? And again, I did send information via email. You don't have email at this point until today.
Last night.
Right.
Are we supposed to answer back on that, within 20 days or something? That letter was sent, I see the 9th.
Which one? We get a lot of letters, Franklin.
Well, the second part you addressed there about the preserving the evidence.
Yeah, we have responded through legal counsel.
So who's responding then?
Our insurance trust, we're working with Mako on this. This isn't something that I think any one of the three of us has any expertise on, so that we have legal counsel.
It's a pretty big deal.
At this point, it's actually just common practice. Anytime anybody is putting together a road to sue, what they'll do is caution whoever they're looking at suing from destroying any evidence, which again, we don't do anyway, but that's all it is. It's just common practice. But yes, responses have been sent. Any other questions?
When do you think that meeting will be?
For further with the CBA and the union, we've scheduled it for a week from Thursday.
So only one commissioner.
That's right, yep. And it is closed door again to protect the rights to privacy of an employee. Constitutionally, employees are all afforded the right to privacy, and so when they do have an issue, it's not something that's paraded in front of the public. We do protect their rights. So
I would suggest that you be the one going. You've been involved since the beginning of it all.
Speak up,
All
Elaine,
right.
I can't hear you.
I asked that she be the one to go, being as she was there earlier.
Okay, thank you.
all right, I will. Thank you.
It just makes sense.
It does. You don't want to change, that institutional knowledge again. So, any further questions on that? All right. Tim?
Yes, Madam Chair, Tim Rundle, just a real quick question. As you being a representative to go to this meeting with the union, are the commission going to meet as a body in private session to discuss that?
Oh,
So that you
certainly
can
not.
have all three commissioners weigh in on it?
No, commissioners never meet in private session over union negotiation.
On a
So what would happen,
private employee?
what would happen is the reason only one commissioner meets with the union is so that no decision can be made at that time.
Okay.
So one commissioner will go back, talk to the others, put it on the agenda, make sure it's fully
Thank you.
noticed, and all issues will be dealt with in public. Again, in protecting still that
Understand
employee's
that.
rights
This
to
was an
privacy.
employee private issue, so that's why I asked. if it
That's
was
the
also-
process.
Thank you.
All right, anything else before we move on? We have minutes from October 20, 2014.
I'll move for approval.
Should be 27, did I forget to change that?
Today's the 27th.
That's right, you're
Yeah,
right.
no, you're right on, Ann.
Okay.
We have a second, Franklin.
No.
Do you want to talk about anything here?
Every time I bring up anything, you never pay attention to it anyways, that's why I say we should,
I'm asking you for your opinion. Do you want to bring anything up, or do you just want to vote no?
I just don't know. The appropriate time will come for the rest of them.
Okay. The time for public deliberation is, of course, a public meeting, but I will second the motion. It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of October 20, 2014. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
So,
One opposed. Thank you, Ann. Okay, so 10:15, we are going to close this general public meeting and open a public hearing. And this is to hear a resolution for the support of the Tintina Mine project in White Sulphur Springs. Here's a copy, you guys can share that, I just have the one. For those of you who don't know, Tintina representatives have been to Broadwater County a number of times to talk about the Tintina mine, which is a copper mine. So we were asked to write a letter of support for Tintina, and what we discussed doing instead was a resolution because it's stronger. I'll just read some highlights. This has been available to the public for the last week. Copper mining is Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners' resolution to support environmentally sound, economically important, and safe mining. Whereas copper mining is imperative to meet the consumptive needs of our nation, state, and community, and whereas Mark County is blessed with an economically viable mineral deposit, the Johnny Lee deposit at the Black Butte Copper Project, which is the second highest grade copper deposit under development in North America, and whereas the Black Butte Copper Project could contribute to the region's economic foundation, and whereas the proposed Black Butte Copper Project will operate under the watchful eye of state regulatory agencies and must meet or exceed state and federal environmental standards to ensure mining activities are environmentally responsible, and whereas, there is a typo there, sorry, construction of the exploration decline will create direct and ancillary jobs in Mark County and the region, whereas the jobs created will add to the region's diverse opportunities and overall economic health, and whereas a stronger workforce and economy are essential to providing the sustainability of ancillary jobs, services, and philanthropic organizations which are critical to the health of the region's main streets and small businesses, and whereas Tina Resources has been a good neighbor while performing its exploration activities with an open door policy that includes public tours of their facility and outreach to educate, inform, and showcase their pride in the important environmental sound job project. Now therefore be it resolved. The Broadwater County Board of County Commissioners supports Tintina's work to bring the Black Butte Copper Project to fruition. Tintina's work to create sustainable jobs in the region and provide for humankind today without compromising the ability of future generations that environmentally is healthy for the region, in keeping with our responsibility to improve the overall viability of Broadwater County. So, any public comments or questions concerning this resolution? Tim?
Madam Chair, Tim Ragdoll, I commend the Commission for coming forward and supporting this project. It is a benefit to the region and everyone wins. Thank you.
Thank you. John?
John Wright. I also think highly of the support of this operation. We have copper deposits right here in our county. Being in the mining business myself and property owner, there is some good copper deposits, not as high, but could contribute to their entire endeavor. But I do have one objection, that economically we spend no taxpayers' money on their project. Support, yes, but no money. Is this the way it's going to be?
That is exactly what this resolution says. We support it. Anytime a new business comes into the region, it supports the region economically. That does not mean we put tax dollars into it. It means that we benefit from a healthy economy.
Very
This
good.
resolution is to support environmentally sound, economically important, and safe mining.
Can I have a copy of this? Is it available to us?
Absolutely, it's a public document. Yes, you
Alright.
can get that from the clerk and recorder's office.
Thank you.
Any other, Bill?
Bill Kearns, what is the status? What have you heard as to what's happening over there?
They're in Australia right now. Why, I don't know exactly, but they're rolling along. They've got the support of DEQ. They've passed everything they needed at this point. It's probably a 2-year process to get started. But at this point, I think they're doing
Don't you
it
have like
right.
10 or 20 people, I think, that are working there now in exploration, or
25,
25? Oh,
yes.
oh.
Yeah, and that's according to the Moore County resolution. And this was mirrored off of that.
Is there any Broadwater County people working there?
That I don't know.
That'd
But,
be interesting to know.
There would be some if this goes in, because Moore just can't house everybody. So there'd be commuters from the surrounding region, which is where some of the ancillary support comes from, or the ancillary gain.
Your answer about them being in Australia, there's some big copper deposits down there, and they are associated with big owners. That's part of their financing comes out of Australia.
Okay, good to know, thank you. Any other public comments, questions, concerns, support? All right, anything from the board?
I think it's a goal.
All right, with that,
Supported.
okay, I'm gonna close the public meeting, last chance. All right, we are closing the public hearing and back to our regularly scheduled meeting. We will revisit this here in about 45 minutes, 50 minutes actually. We are a little bit early. So we have time cards, just need to sign those and give those to Debbie to get your paychecks. Oh, there you go. You'll be glad to know that Lisa is this close to finishing fixing the filing system downstairs, so,
Good.
yeah, she's done a heck of a good job. We don't have a lot of mail this week. This is a Halloween luncheon, tacos and dessert fondue, Thursday, October 30th, 11:30 to 1:30. This is something that the employees do. It doesn't cost citizens anything, and they don't lunch from 1:30 to 11:30 to 1:30. They take the regular 1 hour and fit it into those times. So this is just a nice thing we do in the courthouse. I do have one claim here I do have to address. This is for 2-night stay in Kalispell for the NACO conference. It's for $189 per night. Broadwater County has a memo out for employees that sets that we pay the state rate, period, for overnight stays. That's $89 a night. So frankly, we cannot pay this claim for the full amount. We can only pay the state rate. So I'm gonna give this back to you, and if you wanna
When
resend it,
I
that
called in
can.
there, and when I see how much that was, and I said, why, I didn't get the state rate. And then they called back and said I couldn't get it.
Really?
Yeah,
They had a certain number of rooms blocked off for the state rate. There were 2 other hotels nearby that people were staying at to get the state rate, but that's your responsibility. So you either need to work that out with them or.
when I talked to them, the block rooms was okay, I mean, had been filled. And so that's why I went with this. Well, I was gonna stay in that same hotel, because it was a good example that some of these that had to end up, it was full, they couldn't get rooms there. They had to stay in these other motels, and they were scattered all over. Because when we come back from that cat dinner that they had, people, like I say, the bus left people all scattered all over through town.
This isn't anything new. When I was working with the state rate is all you got, period.
Right, yeah.
And I don't care if you were staying at the Hilton, it was state rate only.
But if you don't have that or, you know, those parameters set, you could stay anywhere. So whatever you wanna do on that, Franklin, is totally up to you. So we have our 10:30 just walked in the door. Julie Sorstad, RMDC Hospital to Home Discussion. Do you guys wanna come up and join us at the table?
Morning, Julie. Hi. Hi, how are you? So, with me, I have Linda Nolan.
Hello,
Melanie
Laura
Crone.
Albert. Nice
Hi.
to meet you.
Hello.
We've met, I'm Laura
Nice to
Albert.
see you again.
You too.
Hi.
Hi, and I'm Mitch. Love Yeah, and Franklin, I don't know if you've met Linda Nolan.
No.
Yeah, and Melanie. Yeah.
Hi.
So they currently have a program, or as a part of Rocky Mountain Development Council. It's called Keeping Them Home. So Melanie is coordinating that. Linda oversees the senior core programs for Rocky. So I'll let Melanie explain. She has some information. It's something that's currently we have with St. Peter's Hospital, but really would like to bring it to Broadwater. So, and Elena knows really for it too. So she's on our board, so I'm pretty excited about it. I'm extremely excited about it because I worked with healthcare for a long time. And we're saving St. Peter's Hospital thousands of dollars, and she'll explain even more than thousands. So I'll let Melanie take it away. So, okay.
Hi.
Well, and anytime we can keep people in their home, I think is important.
Oh, absolutely, that, going back to the hospital, right away after you get out because you can't manage at home is one of the biggest issues that we have. And then people fall through the cracks, so this is definitely something that helps keep them in home, so, yeah.
Well, the Retired Senior Volunteer Program, RSVP, has had interest in here in Townsend for, we've had a station here at the senior center for probably the last 8 to 10 years, I believe. And so we're already sort of here, you know, it's just we have about 4 to 5 volunteers from the senior center that do things through the RSVP organization. And so now we've embarked on this new program, which we've called Keeping You Home. And basically, it sort of came together at a great time because with the Affordable Care Act mandates for hospital medical facilities to try to reduce the amount of people being readmitted for the same diagnosis within 30 days. It sort of segued perfectly into a grant proposal that we had done to try to do exactly the same thing. So we are working with St. Peter's Hospital as well as the VA Center already on this program. But I'm sure it's something that could really benefit your community also. So basically what happens is we have highly specialized volunteers that go through more extensive training than just our regular volunteers, and they become experts in resource coordination. And so they work on a voluntary basis with patients that are just coming out of the hospital, and they're referred by their primary physicians to our group, and then we couple that volunteer with that recently discharged patient for the next 30 days. And we do whatever we can to try to keep them in their home and to keep them from being readmitted to the hospital for the same with the same diagnosis within 30 days. And so it takes a large burden off the medical facility because they are now required that they cannot exceed over a certain percentage of people being readmitted for the same diagnosis without getting a fine. And I think for St. Peter's, our program, they indicated to us, could save them upward of $500,000. And this is a volunteer program. So of course we'd like to see volunteers come from here, and we would certainly be willing to help build a volunteer base for that. We do have some volunteers who already are from the Townsend area.
And we already have our connection with the senior center, so that it makes that a little bit easier. I did bring some brochures on the program. Some of the things our volunteer coordinators do is, pass that down, is we may, we go in and we do an assessment with a recently discharged patient. We refer to them as clients. And we look at what their environmental needs are. They may be going home and maybe they're living alone, or they may be living with a son or a daughter. They may not have anyone who can necessarily help them through that getting back to home adjustment. Maybe we go in and we see that they've just gotten out of the hospital and they're not extremely ambulatory yet. And we go and look at their house, maybe they've got cords, extension cords running across the floor, or things that are going to make it more likely that they could have an accident or not a successful, readmittance into the home. Sometimes we have people who have, one of the main issues, transportation issues. And you probably see that a lot here in the community with our seniors, is that transportation is a major issue. We often end up running them to their doctor's appointments or to a post-surgical, checkup, that type of thing. Another large percentage of people who go back to the hospital shortly after they're discharged is because of medications being taken improperly or not at all. A lot of times, people get discharged, they feel great, and they're, like, I don't need to go back and see the doctor, or I don't need to take these medicines anymore. So we can go in and assess and do help with them in those areas. A lot of people have extenuating things that they have to maintain long-term, maybe if they're diabetic or something. And we do want to emphasize that we're not medical people, but we're resource coordinators. We know where to get the help for these folks. And it's been very successful right now. Out of 25 clients that we've worked with, we've only had one readmitted. And so that's a pretty good statistic even for the interim period of our grant. And so do you have any questions, or?
Is there any
I'm
questions?
just impressed. I saw their presentation at Rocky's board one day and I said, what about Broadwater?
Yeah. So how many hours roughly per day would the volunteer spend with the client during that 30-day period?
We usually try to have a face-to-face appointment with the client within 24 hours of discharge.
Okay.
And so we go in, they kind of do some preparation in advance for us, in that the primary physician will talk with their patient, usually in the hospital before they're discharged, and ask them, would you like the services of the RSVP Keeping You Home program? They can kind of get, help you out with, that transition. And almost everyone says yes. Sometimes people have a really extended family and they're like, no, I got it, maybe a shade, kind of thing. But usually they do say yes. And so we've had sort of a introduction even before they've gone home, just letting them know that we'll be giving them a call. We try to call them within 24 hours of them being discharged. And then we set up an appointment as soon as possible to go over to their home and to make that good relationship, face-to-face relationship with them, and to try to do some immediate assessment on what their needs may be. And so it's really custom. We have a lot of, my most favorite example is a gentleman that I worked with, and I thought, well, I want to know what the program's all about, not just administering it, but actually being an on-the-ground volunteer. So I've done quite a few of them myself. And my most favorite visit, I guess, was a gentleman I went to see, and I'll just call him Ken for use of this example. And I went over and I met him one time, and then at the end of the meeting I said, Ken, I'd really like to come over and see you again, and we could kind of hang out for 30 days and get you all adjusted here and everything you need to be successful. And he said, no, I don't want you to come back again. And I said, well, you sure I can't call you? And he goes, yes, that's what I want you to do. He says, I don't need to see you anymore. He says, but I want you to call me on Tuesdays and Thursdays and make sure I'm still alive so that my dog won't be left alone if something happens to me. His dog's name is Shorty. And so I call Ken every Tuesday and every Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning. We have a wonderful little conversation about the weather, what's going on, how's Shorty doing? And that's what our relationship was. But you know, he was so worried, he had had a heart attack, and he was really worried that he would have another one, and that his dog would be left alone and no one would find him. And so sometimes it's the most simple, comforting thing that just, you know, takes all that worry, you know, away from them. And then we have some that are extremely involved. Maybe they have multiple, more long-term chronic problems, and we get them hooked up with Meals on Wheels so they don't have to cook anymore. Or we provide transportation solutions for them. You know, just all sorts of stuff. The simplest things that can make people's life more enjoyable. You know, finding someone to donate, you know, Netflix for the next year. I mean, a person being able to sit and watch an old Western sometimes just makes their day, you know, or if they have a sight or a hearing impairment, hooking them up with a talking library. We have a resource book that's about that thick, and we know it by heart, all of us do. And we're just able to usually find really good solutions for people who have kind of strange, you know, things that come up, so.
I think the other part that's really neat is that, especially in a smaller community like Townsend and the Broadwater catchment area, is that you're building community. You know, it's community taking care of community. And so that's huge, because people know who the people are. And it's not necessarily you know, there's no breach in confidentiality. Like Mel said, they're a resource. And so sometimes you can live in a community all your life and not know all the resources that come into that community that you could use. And so I think that's the part, that connection that happens. And then there's also that connection of community that happens. And I think that's what we all look for when, in our lives, is to have that connection. I mean, I saw it, like when I came over to the Fall Fest, how as we drove in, I said, you know, I'm really kind of getting to like Townsend. The more time I spend over here, the more, you know, like, just that whole feeling that is here. And I think that's why I think the program could be so successful.
We also have a pretty good rate of success as far as getting volunteers, because the level of expertise that is required for these volunteers is a little bit higher and specialized. And so a lot of people who want to volunteer in a medical environment, sometimes they're doing more simple tasks, maybe the hospitality card or the gift shop or something like that. But there's a level of people who want to feel like what they went and did today had a real direct impact on someone's health and well-being. And I think we fit that niche. And so it's pretty exciting to be a Keeping Your Home volunteer. We get together every 2 weeks for a non-mandatory meeting, but it's kind of a support group for the volunteers, and we share our stories, and it's really engaging to see what people are doing to assist people in maintaining their ability to stay in their home and stay healthy.
It gives you warm fuzzies to
It
know that you're
does.
calling to see that they are okay and the dog's okay.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That was important to him.
And we always tell our volunteers, you know, it's a 30-day relationship. Where it goes from there is your own, thing. You know, we always make it very clear to the clients we work with that this is a 30-day, effort for us to get you independent and everything. But, I'll be the first one to admit that I still drop a loaf of zucchini off here and there every once in a while. Zucchini bread off to a client every once in a while, just because you do establish, friendships. So.
You get attached.
Yeah, you do.
Mhm.
It's hard to
Yeah.
say goodbye sometimes.
Sure. The senior companions, and I think it's RSVP here in town, they are very proud of the work they do. They're invaluable, first of all, but they know what a service they're providing. And to sit down and talk with those folks is really quite an uplifter.
Yeah, and Linda can tell you all about Senior
Mhm.
Companions. She's our director, so.
I brought brochures for the other two programs, foster grandparent and senior companion. And this gives you an idea of the areas that we serve and how many hours and how many companions. And I think right now we only have 2 in town, so. But we're always recruiting, and we currently don't have any foster grandparents, which I would love to get some in the school here, because I know they would like them. But it's just, we just haven't been able to get any interest, so. But I brought information about that as well. And we call the senior companion and the foster grandparent program sister programs, because they have the exact same benefits, the same regulations, they qualify the same, everything's the same except the mission. The senior companions help homebound, and the foster grandparents work with the kids in the schools and Head Start. So, but we would love to have more of a presence in this community. If you can tell us, besides the senior center, perhaps where is a place to try to recruit, because I'm not real familiar with the community. Just to try to get some more interest.
Yeah, we have craft club, garden club, some of those would be good ones to come to.
Okay.
They get together once a month, they have lunch or snacks together, and then do an activity.
What about the Rotary too?
Absolutely.
That's one I noticed. I think, weren't you dressed in a dirndl?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was you, but I wasn't sure. I was like, I think that's Laura, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So where would I find out the schedules, the meeting schedules for these committee or places?
You know what?
Or contacts perhaps, and then I can.
Yeah, contacts
see.
with Heidi.
Yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll give you mine, and my mother-in-law's in both of those, and then Rotary, there's some Rotarians here. I can get you that schedule, it's every other Tuesday at 6:30, and I think a program.
Second and fourth Tuesdays, I believe.
Are you still on the program committee, Bill?
Yes.
Maybe a program
Okay.
would be a good idea. What we do is,
Can I use
once
the
a
card
month.
or?
Yeah. Once a month, we have a program on, some kind of service
Oh,
that's
sure,
out
yeah.
there.
That's perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, yeah, if I could get your card, we could have, both of you come and present.
Okay.
And then we'll buy you dinner.
Oh.
I know, yeah.
It's
Such a
yeah.
deal.
Yeah.
Linda?
There's a very active women's club too.
Oh,
That's
really?
right.
Oh,
Yes, thank
neat.
you. Can you get their schedule to us as well?
I think it's either on your ECDC website,
Yes, it is.
Ernie has it, it's on the Townsend website, I think.
Okay.
In fact, I
Oh,
think
it was-
most of those
I
groups
think
are on the
so.
website. Yeah,
Okay. Well, if we just get on the website, we get contact
you bet,
folks then.
absolutely.
Okay,
Yes,
just do that.
Laura?
yes, yes.
Okay.
I mean,
Yes,
either I
Sharon.
get a pamphlet or stop and see Trudy at the paper.
Okay, we have some
Oh.
additional,
Yeah, that's
Great.
great.
yeah, if you want to leave those with Sharon, she represents the paper often in these meetings for us.
Super.
Yeah,
What's that?
So what does it cost the hospital? Or does it?
or where does the savings come from?
Oh,
Right.
we're grant funded right
Oh.
now. But the grant, how long does the grant last?
June 30th of 2015.
15, yeah, another year.
Mhm.
So from there is the question. That'll be the question. The dream, the vision is that St. Pete's will fund us and probably expand us. That would be the goal, because of the savings. I mean, it's huge because they do not get reimbursed. They lose reimbursement and have to provide care for free on recidivism. When patients are discharged and they come right back in because they failed, they don't get paid for that for Medicare or Medicaid. So it's to their advantage to have the program. So,
You say they get fined also, is that?
yeah, it sounds like they get fined. I'm not totally aware of the fine.
I think if
But,
they exceed over 15% recidivism, then they're, I should not, probably not have said a fine, but they are the amount of their reimbursement is reduced.
Oh,
So
okay,
you
so they're
can look at
losing
it.
money,
Yeah,
yeah.
either way.
Either way, they're losing money.
And the other thing that it really helps with is, more so in Helena because we have a larger community hospital, but some folks have, sort of started using the emergency room as a primary physician's office, because they just don't have a primary physician or they go so seldom to see a doctor. And it is also helping with that to get people going through the, better channels than just walking into the ER when really they could be going more to like the urgent care portion of the hospital or actually going to their physician before they get really sick. So it's cut down on that too. So it's a good program for more than several ways.
And we're hoping that, this will be successful and, we can maybe model it in other communities, but what we're looking for in terms of funding, would be that if communities were interested, that they would help pay for the training or channel money into Mel's program so that she can do the training. That's the biggest piece. So, that's all just kind of out there, but that's what we're hoping. Because we don't have any funds after
Right,
the
after
end
the,
of the year. Yeah.
But it's a great time to try to start something up right now while it's funded.
well, it's funded, that's why
Right,
we
yeah,
wanted to.
right.
And I'm sure there's gonna be different models at the end of next June. I think that St. Peter's, we're kind of working on a transition team right now, so that the coordination will happen through the hospital directly, but that we will end up still providing volunteers, and we may end up doing the training, whereas the VA will probably keep doing everything because they have so few resources for this type of thing. But so the model's really flexible at this time as to how it needs to go with any community.
Another place for you guys to talk to people is the senior center.
Right.
Lunch, noon, of course, 11:30 noon. But the thing with grants is they're a test bed for people to try things new. Either they work and they fly, or they don't, and you at least tried it, and you learned something. So, yeah, I think we can all understand, what you've done, why you're working at it at this point, and if you can demonstrate that there's a savings,
Right.
that's good for
Exactly.
everybody.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
all the way through, all the way around, yeah.
Well, in addition to the savings, I think it's just really good, because some of these people don't have anybody to help them, and they're just alone, and this really helps them.
Yeah, it really does, yeah, and connects them with the community, that's the part that I think is a real advantage. And then they haven't fallen through the cracks.
And somebody's watching out for them.
Yeah, exactly, and and sometimes you're so private, you don't want anybody to know, but you end up in the hospital, but you realize if you go home, you're just gonna be alone, and so then somebody knows. And that relationship is built, so you don't fall through the cracks again. I mean, I think that's the huge part, that building of community that, is strong, but sometimes people are, well, I don't know, maybe it's too proud. We're all proud, so, but it helps to build that community, that's.
Is this nationwide?
It's a pilot program.
Yeah.
And in
So it's
Montana,
huge.
3 RSVP programs received the grant. It's not over yet, but I'm proclaiming that it's successful in Helena. And we had 2 other RSV programs, one in the north and one to the south, that also got a grant, and one has not worked, it wasn't implemented, and I guess they had a great deal of difficulty in implementing it. And then the other one kind of transformed into something else. And so ours is sort of a standalone program for this pilot in Montana. And I think that once we can produce our demographics at the end of the grant period and substantiate what we see is happening, then it's going to be something that's going to go nationwide, because we've already received attention at higher levels from the Corporation for Community Service and other places. So
Fantastic program.
would be
So,
Careful, so
probably be
nice,
presenting
yeah.
in Washington DC, yeah.
see.
Pretty exciting,
It
yeah,
is.
we're on the
It is.
map, so that's neat. I mean, you know, just as the whole tri-county.
It just gives me warm fuzzies.
Yeah, I know, I get goosebumps actually. So, pretty exciting. Yeah, I just think it's such a great program. We can only expand, which is what needs to happen.
We were referred to this program on a personal level by Bozeman, a
Oh.
family member in the Bozeman Hospital, and they said, well, make sure you get involved with this program. Well, we couldn't because we're in Townsend and the program is St. Pete's. So I'm tickled because you don't always know what the problem areas are. You don't know what the problems are until somebody who's knowledgeable is able to point them out to you. And it takes a lot of pressure off of family members to make sure that they're doing everything right too. So I think this is invaluable. I salute what you're doing and absolutely whatever we can do to help. As far as, any clubs, any groups that are meeting.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
We would
and
love to come out and visit, so we'll get on there.
excellent,
Also,
yes.
who the connection would be at the Broadwater Health Center?
Kyle House.
Hopstead?
HOPSTAD.
Sounds like another Norwegian.
That is the
Yeah.
portion
Not like
of the
myself.
program that, is critical, is finding an advocate at the professional physician level within the medical facility. And we've worked very diligently to try to bridge the, good relations between the physicians, the staff, the community health workers that are out there, and our resource coordinators to make sure that everyone understands that we all have our place and our boundaries, and, we are not going to be stepping on toes or anything like that. So
Right.
it's a little bit of a delicate thing to set up, but once everybody gets it, then it works real well, so.
Well, I think also, working with, public health and home health is another key partner, in the whole delivery of services.
2663186.
So, okay, great.
And public health would be Linda Campbell.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Fast.
Anyone else you guys
Is it
can think of?
5207?
I don't have it memorized, but we could go with that.
I don't know. Probably some tall, dark stranger.
That's right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's great. Lots
I'm
of
glad you
benefits.
guys came down.
Yeah, thanks
Yeah.
so much for having us, yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you're doing. It's excellent.
I have a question for you.
Yes.
I was at Rocky's Area 4 agency meeting
Oh, yes.
the other day at the senior center. What does, the county gives X number of dollars towards senior transportation. What is that money used for?
Well, the buses, we run that bus to pick up, seniors who run to, I'm not exactly sure how frequently we do run to East Elmwood. And we transport seniors to meals, mostly to come into the senior center.
What about in Townsend?
Yeah, there isn't a transportation, there isn't a bus that goes in Townsend, right? Yeah, well, and transportation is a very big issue all the way around. And there's the HATS, the Helena Area Transit. And then there's also a committee right now, they got funded, and they've gotten funded for extended. And they're looking at, and they have a consultant that's come in to look at a regional. My thought was it should be a regional, it should be a regional bus transit system that includes all of the commissioners of the tri-county sitting down together to talk about it. That's my vision and dream. I went over to the senior meeting, Area 4 meeting, and a senior meeting in Bozeman, and they get their funding, they have an incredible transportation program that's free. They get their funding from the county, from the university, and from the university students who attend the college. So some of the money that comes in is because the university students use it, from the fees that the students pay. So it seems like our big industry people like the VA, St. Pete's, and Carroll College, and Helena College, could all be a part of that funding stream, plus the counties. But that's just my own personal opinion about it. I talked long with the person who's running their transportation program. And they run 5.5 buses with almost the similar amount of money that Hats gets, which is, they actually gave back $30-some thousand. Well, how come they're giving back $30-some thousand when we are only running 2 buses and you can't even get I mean, I came in and I was like, well, I'd ride the bus rather than drive, you know, but there was no way that I could, there's not a fixed route. You know, they do some paratransit transportation. And of course, by the way Walt said to say hello, because I spent last week, I went to Livingston.
Please tell him hello back.
Yes, and I will. And he said, well, why don't they give that money to us? Because then we could go out and transfer more people. So it's a hot and it's a big issue, but I believe, this is my own theory, it should be a regional transportation. And it should involve all county commissioners from all 3 counties. That's just my own personal. Everybody needs to sit down at the table and say, how can we make this work? You know, everybody needs transportation. We don't all need to be driving a car by ourselves to go from here to there when, you know, when we need to. And we have senior volunteers, you know, that transport, but we don't have enough to be able to do that for folks. Exactly.
Would you also, when you call Kyle on this issue, this opportunity,
Yeah.
would you also ask him about that? Because the hospital does have a bus.
Okay.
The issue's been that the driver did retire, so they've been
Oh.
kind of in a transition
so
period.
there's all kinds of partnerships that could.
Right.
And the HRDC, you know, which is what Rocky is, they're the ones that set up this transportation program. That's where it sits. It sits with the HRDC. So,
Yeah, if there's some way that the two are working together or could work together better,
right.
that would be great.
Well, and if there's some partnership that we could,
Yeah,
that'd be really exciting.
and he's been trying to use the bus to pull in people to the senior center from Radersburg and Toston and Winston.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, to play pinochle and, you know, have that social
Right,
outlet.
Yeah, there's
So-
some great things that happen at the Johnson Senior Center,
Yeah,
yeah, so, all of those, that would be great. I will for sure talk with them about that.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank
They've
you.
got the bus.
Yeah, see, I didn't even know that. Every day I learn something new.
That's good.
That's what's good, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
Thank
thanks
you
so
very
much.
much.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, I'm sorry, I forgot your name and I didn't introduce you.
Ann Rouser.
Ann. I was thinking it was Diane. Thanks, sorry. Ann.
Ann takes care of us, keeps
Yes.
us on the straight
Yes,
and
she
narrow.
does.
Thanks a lot. Good to
Thanks,
see you.
guys.
Thank you.
Could I have the trifold?
You bet, right here.
Thank you. Oh, me too. There's such a need. And we are an aging community. All right, 11 o'clock, I don't see Bernadette for COSs. So we will resume a little bit of mail for a few minutes. What we have is a grant. This is just a continuation of the Deep Creek grants at LEPC this week. Sean gave an update, which was exceptional. This is the DNRC part of the grant and will be used as one of the many matches for the big Deep Creek grant. With these matches, we are looking at 0 county funds or PILT funds being used for that. It will be matched, and that was the goal from day one. So I will entertain a motion. The work's already been done. That's just so that we can make sure that that match is taken care of.
Also move.
It's been moved and seconded to sign the DNRC General Services Agreement for Deep Creek Watershed Assessment. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Tim,
Does that correspondence have a figure amount on that grant from DNRC?
I don't recall seeing a figure, but if Franklin sees it, he can tell you and I'll double check it.
I think it's 50,000.
Okay, 50.
Yeah.
Thank you.
this is one of the partnerships we have with, DNRC, Citizens Advisory, Conservation District, Fish, Wildlife and Parks, FEMA, county. I'm sure I'm missing another 8 or 9. Thank you. Thank you, Ann. We have approved claims in the amount of $30,746.88.
I move for approval of the claims in the amount of $30,746.88.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to pay the approved claims of $30,746.88. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. There you go. You don't need this for a copy, do you?
You know, I think I'm gonna push a little bit on that transportation. Some of that come to Broadwater, because we're giving them the money. It belongs here.
Well, and I think we need to verify too that it isn't being used for the hospital, because we don't know for sure
No, we
how
don't.
much of that is being used for that
Mhm.
service. But yeah, I think you're right, if it isn't, then we need to definitely bring it back.
Mhm.
But I do think some of it's going to that,
And that could very well be.
yeah, so we need to
I
get some more
hope it is.
details. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. Thank you. Yes, meeting. All right, so it looks like we're all caught up. All right, anything for the good of the order to bring forward? We have a couple minutes before opening our decision for the Tintina Mine resolution at 11:15. And then our next appointment's at 11:30. We can certainly pull that one up a little bit sooner. So anything for the good of the order?
I think we have a meeting with Mike Clumpy this afternoon on Deep Creek.
What's that technical group that's?
Oh, yes, yes. We can sit in on that. It's actually the technical group and we would just be observers. But yeah, that's, I forget what time, but it is this after 1 o'clock. Yeah, thank you for that.
I haven't had email for a month, so when they come in now, I'm really checking them out. That came from Mike this morning.
And that'll be at the Forest Service. Hey, Ann, would you ask Scott if he would be available to come meet with us when we get to? Sure. All right, thanks. have a receipt here that says, it's for the sale of hay. Sold to Broadwater County, 100 bales of hay at $60 a bale to feed the incarcerated horses.
Wow. I hate to think what that bill is getting to be in total.
Yeah, although we haven't been asked for anything additional to the 35,000, I think they're getting a lot of grants. There's a lot of people out there that, help pay for these kinds of things. Remember that dog situation, the, Huskies in Jefferson County? That bill without any grant support would have been $475 to start. And they didn't pay anywhere near that because of all the support out there, Humane Society and private groups stepping forward. So there's a lot of support.
I assume that, the gentleman involved with this horse deal is taking a leave of absence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lengthy process, but we'll be glad when it's over. But I'd rather see it go long and right than be hurried along and then have something missed.
Mm-hmm.
And, have a miscarriage of justice. That's funny. I'd like to see a legislative change that animals in that kind of situation can be adopted out without waiting for the entire trial to be completed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's better for the animals.
I guess for somebody can love them
Exactly.
and enjoy them.
Laura?
Yes, sir.
Some of you probably remember, Cliff Heisel, he passed away this morning. He was a coach of the Bobcats. I think he played in Townsend. I think he graduated from Helena, but Franklin and Elaine, maybe Ann might have remembered him. So I just thought I'd announce that.
I'm glad you did. Thank you.
How old was he?
72.
Pretty darn young.
Yeah.
Yes.
That sounds like the voice of experience, huh?
That's right.
That's right. Was he living in Bozeman now, did you say?
Lived in Bozeman, I think. Mhm.
so it is 11:15, Tintina Mine Resolution Decision. What do you guys think? Do you have any further questions, further discussion?
I make a motion to approve our support of the town mine.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to sign the support resolution for environmentally sound, economically important, and safe mining regarding the Tintina mine. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Also, I will ask your permission to take this front page and just change this fifth whereas to take out the I. And at the bottom of the, now therefore be resolved, there's 2 periods. So if it's okay with you guys, I will make those 2 corrections and bring back the title page.
Please
Ann,
do.
all right, I'll give you that, Ann.
Let's bring this up. That's $60 a bale, that's correct, and those are large bales.
Right. They're 4x4s, aren't they? Or 3x4s?
I thought these are cylinders, I think it's 3x3s.
All right, Scott Dunning, our agenda does say these issues and times are subject to change. So Scott Dunning, weed coordinator update, come on up. Thank you for coming. We got a little bit ahead of schedule.
That's fine.
Thanks, Ann. You want us to wait to start? Okay. Thank you.
I don't have it, but when I'm done. Basically, the reason I just decided to come up here is I haven't talked to you folks for a while, and just kind of let you know what the county weed department is doing and what we've been up to this year, just kind of give you an idea where the taxpayer money's going, and just kind of some of the projects that we've taken on. I know I've had a lot of interest in different people throughout the community saying, well, I don't see any grants out there or anything advertised, but we actually have had a couple grants that we did, or one major grant that we've done this year and spoke for, and that's at the bottom. That's the Spokane Hills Sheep and Goat Project, which has been going on since 2014. It had been headed out of Lewis and Clark County up until 2010, I believe, and then no grants were put in for helping those people since 2010. This last year, Broadwater County Weed Department said that we would head the program and go after a grant, Noxious Weed Trust Fund grant. We received that one this year, and it was for $11,300 to help the landowners get the sheep and goats in there and do improvements towards that grant area. And then kind of going back to the top of our list of things, this year I had one seasonal employee and myself, and we did all the county spraying and right-of-ways. We were able to do all county right-of-ways and properties at least once this year, and then we did approximately 20 roads in the county a second time. And of those, if you look, we kind of figure that second round is kind of a give back to the community. I mean, our job title says that we shall do all roads in the county at least once. So we did that, so we went back on them second roads. We were kind of targeting the areas that are more heavily infested or have the harder to control weeds like Dalmatian toadflax, leafy spurge, or the bigger areas of infestation. And so we kind of went back and did a lot of those roads. One thing that we did find is since we purchased the 6x6 in 2012, our right-of-ways are actually becoming a lot cleaner, so a lot of the spraying on the second time around was actually probably outside of our right-of-way. We were able to get off the roads and get out in the hills and get back to the landowners. So if you look under here on point 3, it says acres sprayed outside of normal and herbicide donated back. I did the calculations and I had my seasonal come in there and look at all them roads and add up all the roads that we did. And then we took probably about a 65 to 70% was give back to the community. And then between the herbicide that we donated through different events throughout the last year, I figured, at approximately, $30 per acre, whether it was our spraying or through the herbicide, stuff, it was approximately $6,000 that we've given back to the community since March this year, which I think is a pretty good deal. That's approximately 200 acres that we've given back, and that's herbicide treated acres back to the community. As far as cooperative spraying, and this goes back to the grants too, we've upped our program towards more cooperative spraying so that we didn't really do quite as much grants, but we've been held more responsible to help the BLM and the Forest Service spray. So I kind of consider them towards the county stuff as well. But the BLM had a really good turnout this year, where we worked with BLM, and this is again above and beyond our regular spraying. So we did 2 days spraying outside of our county right-of-ways up Johnny's Gulch, which I don't know if any of you've been up there for a while, but you get up through there, and along there's a lot of BLM up in there, but it's our right-of-way. Well, most of that stuff was spent outside of our legal right-of-way and spraying up along them hills and pulling hand lines and getting in the creeks and stuff. And so we approximately 15 acres there. Keating Gulch, we did I think I marked down 2 days, but if I remember right, I went back right at the end. I think we actually put in 3 days up there, and a lot of that was going back in on that BLM bike trails or four-wheeler trails and UTV trails. We did a lot of spraying in there, and then we worked our way up. And this is all in conjunction of the BLM spraying right beside us. But we approximately 25 to 30 acres up through there, and that was hard to tell. And this is all what the county sprayed, not BLM. I don't know what their numbers and acres were. And then of course we did 3 days up Indian Creek this year, which was in conjunction. This was the only one that I say it was BLM interacted, but we did mostly just our right-of-way spraying between Indian Creek and Mud Springs Road, but we also did some spraying outside of our right-of-ways, which is in them areas that are accessible BLM lands. I didn't add up any acreage for them, just because I wasn't there for 2 or 3 days. So, and then this year the Forest Service kind of started an agreement with us that is kind of an unusual. They did an MOU agreement, kind of like the BLM has in the past, but they gave us $4,000 to use or to go towards spraying on Forest Service lands in the Elkhorn Mountains, to do whatever I kind of wanted to do or however I wanted to do with it. I didn't really think that $4,000 was enough to get a whole lot of land sprayed through a contractor, so I went out and just purchased a herbicide with it, and then held several spray days, one throughout the Crow Creek Valley, and the permittees there. The main participant outside of the county was Roger Sanderson with his help, and then the county vehicles. We sprayed a total of 43 acres in 4 days up through there. We started at the boundary line right there above the main Crow Creek campground, and we were able to go all the way up to the top to the road that cuts off to your left-hand side, I guess. We did some spraying back in there, and then we made a driving corridor down through the Crow Creek Valley. But we were able to do that. And then the other one was kind of from what they call the gates or the big sign area. And through that country, we did it was actually 3 days of spraying up through there. And that was kind of in the Horsehead area, Horsehead Springs, Cold Springs, and down through that. The participant there was Cody Pasiska. And that was kind of in conjunction, they've got a big equip program going on in their McEwen place. We were able to spray 32 acres back in that area. And then for their cooperation and help, I was able to donate them some chemical to go back towards that, to kind of help give them guys a buffer zone off of their private lands. The rest of that, the rest of the herbicide that we used all went towards lessees or landowners that had lands directly adjacent or affected by the Forest Service stuff. I didn't have a chance to get my landowner list prepared, but landowners that I can think of off the top of my head were Darrell Baum, John Potter, Roger Sanderson, Cody Pasisker, Tom Williams Ranch, Bob Mazzola was able to get some. I know I'm missing a couple, but right off the top of my head, I can't think of those. But are there any questions to this point on that? On what we've done and got anything accomplished so far?
Any questions?
Where was you using the goats on the Spokane Hill? Where about in the Spokane Hills area?
It's all lands. There's a bunch of private property. The two main grant holders are Cliff Cox and John Potter, but they also John's cousin, I think it's Doug Cox, not Doug Cox, Doug Potter, I think, or whatever. They use it all up there. The grant, because of the BLM and the McMaster's place, they cannot use it on the old McMaster's place in the BLM, but they can access any other portions of the Spokane Hills. So there was some BLM lands in there that weren't part of the McMaster's place, but it kind of goes all throughout there and then over to the BOR properties and stuff, and so on.
On just the west side or the east side or all of it?
All of it. It's all through, I think the grant area was 15,000 acres. There was 3 semi-loads of sheep and goats brought in this spring. I think there was like 1,100 sheep brought in total and like 250 goats brought in.
The other question I had, how come there was so less money for transporting them coming in and going out? Are the wolves or coyotes reduce the herd so much, or?
No, actually, the way that we wrote the grant is that we would pay for the same amount coming in and going out, which was 3 semi-loads. They took in 3 loads, but they actually brought home, it took 4 semi-loads to bring them out. But because we feel that we shouldn't pay for them to bring that stuff in and out because they're basically getting free grazing. So, in a way, we're donating a lot of grazing lands to fatten their sheep and goats up. We don't believe that's right for us to have to pay for them to fatten their animals up off of us. So that's kind of when it's kind of our responsibility to help pay the herder and haul the water and do all that other stuff. It actually came out to $5,400 that we did through this grant for shipping or trucking on the sheep and goats. So, but we have seen a huge decrease in the toad flax that's in the sheep, or in the Spokane Hills because of this project. So that's kind of what our outcome has been, or wanted to be. And the reason the landowners decided to do it this way instead of any other way is the Spokane Hills are so rough and rugged that really the only way you could do like a treatment, herbicide treatments would be to aerial treat. Well, because of, in 2000, when the fire went through there, the BLM come in and put in a lot of money to try to get native vegetation back in there and to get trees planted back in there. And so really we gotta be careful of where we do any kind of treatments, herbicide treatments. And since it is so rough, the aerial treatments, they're pretty broad. I mean, when they go through, they do 40 acres in a whack, and they can't really control it if they're gonna hit trees or not, so we try to keep that to a minimum. Any other questions?
Did that answer it for you, Franklin?
Yeah, because for some reason I thought it was a lot more. I thought when those claims come through, it was 7,000 for trucking, bringing mower, and going back was like 2,900 claim.
No, it's 2,700 round, both ways is what we donated. And that was, the 2,700's off the 3 truckloads. And that's what they brought in. It might, I heard at one time back at the beginning of this that they used to bring in a lot more, but they don't need as many sheep nowadays, sheep and goats, as they used to. So that's where that is.
So the total was the 5,500
5,400.
or 54 for the truck.
Yep.
Anything else? I will say, Scott, I know you're just halfway through, but the way that you revamped your department and you're being more hands-on with the spraying, according to this, has been a tremendous benefit. Good use of your resources, good use of your money, good use of your department, so far, kudos.
One other thing that we did do this year, that I did this year, was out there in the Toston, Raidersburg area, there's a section out there between Muddy Lane and 437, and it's kind of got three landowners, major landowners in there. There's about 300 acres of white top, and it's kind of in I won't say a tough to control spot, but it's just kind of a unique situation where it's just a big area out there. I went out and solicited donations from Dow Ag Sciences and Crop Production Services out of Billings last winter, and I asked them if they could help donate some different herbicide to try to do a treatment, test plots, major test plots out there to see what would actually be the best control on the white top. Through those solicitations, we were able to do a major spray day out there and do 3 different test plots on John Hensley's, the Williams Trust, or Dennis Williams' place, and then Roger Sanderson's. There was a total of 61 acres, I believe, that were sprayed because of these, and there was 3 treatments, which I'll be curious to really see again this fall, the effectiveness of the controls. But the 3 different herbicide mixes were 2,4-D Escort, Telar and 2,4-D, and then Open Sight, which is a pre-formulated, granulated formula of milestone escort. And so, it'll be curious to see, because I'd always been told that the most effective and really the only way you could control white top was using 2,4-D and escort, which these different chem reps, you know, they come in and said, no, you can use these other ones. Let's just see which one truly gives you the best results and the longest lasting results. So that was pretty interesting. We did run Sarah Sanderson ran an article in last spring's Broadwater Reporter, I believe, about the spray days, but I know that was really interesting. We had, I can't remember exactly how many, I think throughout the day there was like 11 different people, and then one commercial applicator that come in and joined in and helped out and did that. So that was a pretty interesting deal. I think the total, you know, total chemical for that was like $2,500 that was donated through the county weed department and these other DAWAG and CPS. So it just kind of goes to show that, you know, the department's been involved in actually trying to get back as much as we can to the community, to the taxpayers, the best that we can this year. So I think that's pretty much kind of the updates, unless you folks have any questions as to anything else or comments or anything at this point.
Do you feel like you're gaining on them, on the weights?
I honestly do. I think that the 6x6 has made our job way more efficient. Here's a prime example. 3 years ago when we did the Lone Mountain roads alone, I went up there and I did the pickup. I basically was only able to hit what I could hit by the right-of-ways, which it was, the upper ends of them were just completely infested with toad flax and knapweed and stuff. And 2 years ago when in 2012 when we got the 6x6, I think we, just on the lower portion of the road, and I'm talking from the fork up, not the stuff below the forks, but I think on that upper end of the normal Lone Mountain Road, we did 48 acres that first year of treatment up in that area. This year, we had to search hard and wide to come up with about 20 acres worth of treatment on that section of road alone. And that's getting off the road 200-300 yards. And that's kind of always been my philosophy, is if you can reach it, you know, without traipsing through somebody's field or, you know, destroying something of theirs, if I can reach it, I'm gonna reach it. So, yeah, I think we're really starting to see a nice, I'm hear from some of the landowners that they can tell that we're in their spraying. So, Ross Gulch is another one we've had issues with for years. I think this year we had a hard time coming up with 5-6 acres, and that's going above and beyond outside of our normal run to get the 5-6 acres, where last year we did 10 to 12 up through there.
Good job.
Any other questions for Scott? All right, Tim.
Madam Chair, Scott, you mentioned you have some work coordination with BLM and the Forest Service. Where are we at with the right-of-ways on the railroad with MRL? Are they upholding their end any more